welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, heard about it, been through it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. Doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type, you can create an amazing life in sales. Today's guest, definitely not a stranger to that journey. I know he's going to bring some amazing stories to the show because he has definitely had quite the journey. So I'd like to welcome my friend, Mr. Jake Smolarek. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's all correct. Yes, thank you very much for having me.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you being here on the show. You know how we like to do it around here. I want to jump right in. Give me a wild sales story, brother.
Yeah, no problem. So many years ago, one of my first businesses that I started when I was 20 years old was construction business. And when we've been renovating one of the big houses, I'm based in London, UK. We've been renovating one of the houses for one of our clients. My client asked me, hey, by the way, Jake, do you know anyone who are selling doors and windows? Because we're thinking about changing all the doors and windows. Or maybe you are selling and we haven't been selling doors and windows. And I said, of course we do. We're selling the best doors and the best windows on the market, right? And she said, okay, so we need to change about 9 windows and a bifold door to the garden. Can you send me the price? No problem at all. I'll send you the price. And then after 10 minutes, I called my business partner and I said to him, by the way, we are in the windows and doors market from now on. So we need to give her name was Celine. We need to give her a quote. And I was like, I have no idea how much does it cost. So my business partner, he phoned around a few suppliers and he said okay, so it's going to be about £3,700 for everything. And I said okay, cool. So if we say 4,700, we will make good enough money, right? And I said to my personal assistant, I said okay, her name was Zuza, and I was like, Zuza, send Celine an email and say it's going to cost £4,700. And she was just about to send that email, and I was like, no, wait, 5,700, okay? It's going to cost 5,700. And I said, no, people like sevens. Do 7,700. And I was like, okay, I'm going crazy now, right? And I actually did that quite a few times, and we ended up sending 22,700. That was the last price, and my PA sent that email, and I was like, I completely started to panic. I was like, what the fuck did I do? No? What the hell? This is not going to work out. It's going to be horrible. And about after a week, I really had to call that customer because some decision needs to be made. And I was like, I didn't want to call her, right? Because I didn't want to face that sales conversation, right? But I did call, and then I said hey, how you doing? How's the husband? How is the dog, cat? I asked about for about everybody, right? And then I have to ask, and by the way, did you get that email with the prices for doors and windows? And she's like, oh yeah, absolutely, I got it. And then she's like, oh yeah, that was the best price. You were the cheapest. And I was like, damn it. How's that possible that I was the cheapest? So yeah, I think this is one of the craziest sales. What I want to say is sometimes we don't know what is the budget, right? What the client, we just don't know. That's why I was listening to one of your episodes, and one of your guests said that you have to ask very good questions, and I do agree with that. And I always say sometimes if you are in a sales conversation, just ask Mr. Client, Mr. Prospect, what is your budget? Sure, in 80, 70, maybe 60% of cases, they're not going to tell you, but in some cases they will. But if you don't ask, you don't get the answer.
And I think this is what I love about that, Jake, is that's a hilarious story because I'm sure a lot of our listeners have probably been in that situation where they're like, you know what? If we make $1,000, awesome. Actually, let's make 2.
Sure.
Hey, let's just, we're not even in that business, so let's throw out that crazy, we don't even want to do it number. and
Mm.
then they get it. And what I find so interesting is this is like the deeper level of business ownership, is that had you actually done the job for $5,700, I can only imagine how much you would have lost paying
Mm.
out labor, paying out all the things that go along with replacing windows, because it's not just like a
Oh yeah.
slap some paint on it and call it a day thing. I know that's for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. It's just like you never know. Actually, I have a second very quick story. We've been so it was me and another company. We've been trying to get that job right in London. And at my last conversation with this guy, he said like, okay, I'm either going to choose you or the other company. And I really pushed him. I was like, no, you have to use us because of this, and like proper sales conversation. And he said like, oh my God, you're so hungry. Yeah, I think we're going ahead with you. And I was like, okay, fine. Why me? And what was the other guy's price? And he said like, okay, so your price was, I think it was like 100K, okay, £100,000. And it's like, okay, so what about the other guys? Oh, their price was £300,000. And I was like, okay, so I just lost £200,000. It's like, no, don't worry, we'll pay you extra. It's like, okay, nice. Um, and then he explained it to me that I really wanted to go with the other guys because more expensive for me means better job. And I was like, yeah, some people think this way, right? It's not necessarily always true, but we know the saying that goes, you get what you pay for.
Mm.
Mm.
Ooh, and you know what, I wanna riff on that for a second, Jake, because I think this is such an important part of the sales mindset as we grow through, getting better and learning these things. Is you can't undervalue yourself, especially when you
100%.
become an entrepreneur and you start your own business. Like, you don't want to race yourself to the bottom, because there are definitely a lot of people out there who will just completely blow up
Mm.
trying to be the lowest price in town because they think that the lowest price is going to win the job. And it's interesting how buyer behavior really plays a big part of that. And as you mentioned, asking the
Mm.
right questions, that's the easiest way to understand, what is this buyer's intent? Are they just looking for the lowest cost possible? Because then, okay, well, here's how we make it the lowest cost possible for our business, right? You don't want to lose money just to try to get the job. And like, don't get sold on the, oh, well, we're going to send you 100 referrals and all this nonsense. Like, golly, man, I don't know if you've ever run into those people, Jake, but
Mm.
you got to make sure that when you're selling yourself and selling the job, that you're selling it at full value, because as soon as you start discounting yourself, everyone else will discount you too. And I hate to see
100%.
salespeople do that, man. And so, Jake, for you, as you were building that business and as you were, teaching your sales team how to go out and do this, I know part of that is you ended up starting a nonprofit and getting from, what was it, like 3 people to 600 plus or something. How do you get people to get into that mindset of being comfortable selling on full value and bringing it back to the business?
I mean, I would say, first of all, make sure that whatever you're selling, you really believe in that. Whatever it's your services, your products, sell something that you really, really like, believe that you would use it yourself. Otherwise, it might be really tough to sell it. But yeah, I do 100% agree with you. Like I always say to people, go premium. There are different ways of selling. Like McDonald's, it's a restaurant, and a free Michelin star restaurant is also a restaurant, but they're completely different models, right? Business models. And there's nothing wrong with either of it. You can be McDonald's or you can be free Michelin star, but it's just a little bit easier to be free Michelin star and to go premium and make sure that you deliver that premium, right? Like, for example, if you are a coach, be premium, because it's the simple 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, right? That 20% of customers will bring you 80% of all the money. And when I understood that, especially with any of my businesses, construction business, my digital marketing agency that I run at the moment, coaching business, it's like I only want to have a few clients that will pay the big bucks, and because it takes exactly the same energy to work with 3 clients and to work with 30 clients who pay you very little. So always go premium, because it's just, you will have more time. When people say like, oh, I don't have time to do this and that, like, why? Because you have wrong priorities.
Oof, that is That's gonna make a great clip, first of all, because you're right on the money with that one. And it's so interesting how when you're in the mindset of premium, it's what you attract. It's what you surround yourself with. It's what you end up becoming and being a part of on a consistent basis. And this is kind of
Mm.
the let's go woo woo side of sales and growth and entrepreneurship as a whole. It's that part that a lot of people don't want to necessarily admit to, but you have to get out of the past versions of yourself if you're going to step into this higher level. And anytime I've ever worked with anyone, and from a coaching perspective especially, the goal is to grow, to get better. And sometimes you have to go through these processes and you have to, simplify this stuff and make sure that the growth is putting you in the mindset of being who you are supposed to be so that you can get the result you want. Now, when you're looking across the different businesses that you've owned, what's been like the top two or three things that you try to help people understand that's like kind of universal for success in any of them?
I think it's believing in yourself. I have this. I had this one client. Actually, I'm still working with him. He's running very successful business at the moment, and I remember at the very beginning, I could clearly see that this guy can be a very successful entrepreneur because I've seen it before and I've done it before many times. But he couldn't see it. He was like, he said to me one day, "I think you believe in me more than I believe in myself." That I believe myself in me. And it's like, maybe, but don't worry about it because I've seen it before. You haven't done it yet. So that's why it's so difficult for you to believe. Just remember that I believe in you because I could see it. Like he ticked all the boxes. He was very good at selling. He didn't even know that he's good at selling, but I could see that. Yeah, maybe he talked a little bit too much sometimes, but I said, like, you have to stop talking too much and you have to start asking better questions, like the conversation you had with another guest, because asking good questions, that's selling. Sometimes people say, no, talking is selling. No, asking really deep question and then listening to your prospect, that's selling. I'll give you another example. I was in construction business and a lot of people were coming to me and it's like, you are so successful in construction business. How do you do that? And I said, like, a very simple formula, a very simple thing. You guys, you are in a construction business and you are renovating houses. I create homes. That's the difference. Because nobody cares about houses. We all want to have a home. Especially women, especially in construction world. If you're selling, usually the guy is controlling the money, women are spending the money.
Yeah, it's so interesting how when people shift the mindset and focus on the actual deliverable, not the product or the service, right? What's the feeling? What's the emotion that this person is going to experience when they're on the other side of the transaction? That's the
100%.
difference maker. And as you mentioned, a lot of individuals have everything they need in them to be very, very successful as entrepreneurs. But you don't know what you don't know until you know, and
100%.
then you have to make a decision. And that's one of the things that I love about doing shows like this and working with others along the way, because as you start learning new things and you focus on learning it in a way that you can then pass on to the next individual, it's kind of incredible how much more you absorb as you go through these processes and conversations. And so, it's always interesting to me how my experience is that the folks who have been through some of the roughest times, that have gone through like super high highs and then gone through really, really low lows, they've learned how to adapt. So, like, I mean, I was reading a little bit of your story before we got started, and from the sounds of it, I mean, at a young age, you kind of traveled in and you had nothing to show for yourself and you had to learn all of these lessons. And then as you continued through and dealt with, depression and illness and all these things, like, how did you push through those dark times, and how did you advise the others that you were working with along the way how to get through their seasons?
Mm. Well, I I had a vision, and maybe my vision wasn't 100% clear, but at least I had it, and I really wanted to be successful. I didn't even understand what success means at the time, but I had that hunger that I want to prove it to myself and to everybody else, everybody that I can do it. I'm coming from home that, lovely home, but we didn't have a lot of money. And I really wanted to be the first one to show that, like, it's possible, that you can have nothing and you can actually achieve great things. I came to the UK with 150 pounds in my pockets and a big dream, and because people can take money from you, but they cannot take your dreams. They cannot take your vision. They cannot take your goals. They're yours, right? So I always say dream big, like really, really big. Maybe don't go crazy, like when people say like, oh, I want to be a billionaire. Well, how much are you making today? 27,000 pounds or dollars or euros. It's like, well, you see, the gap between that is massive, because your brain is not going to believe in a billion, because, like, sure, it might be a great, maybe eventually that'll be your vision, right? I'm not sure if it's a great goal, but maybe like a vision. But yes, dream big, but at the same time be a little bit reasonable, right? Because, like, if you say like, hey, I'm 65 years old and I want to be an Olympian champion, it ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry, right? So you have to be a little bit. It's in coaching, we call it smart goals, right? Specific but measurable, but also, like, yes, they have to stretch you, but don't be crazy, don't be stupid. But you have to have that vision. So to answer your questions, like, I had a vision. I really wanted to succeed, but I knew what I want. And many years ago, I created something that I called Vision GPS. So vision is your dream, is whatever you want to end up with, right? Your dream life, however you want to call it, because success means different things to different people. But then the vision, that GPS, it's an acronym from vision and from goals, planning process, and systems. If you have those four things, you can achieve almost anything. Because first of all, you must know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. If you don't know where you're going, it's just you. It's like if you have a bow and an arrow, but you don't know the targets, well, you're going to miss every single time. So you have to know, you have to have that precision. It's like, what is it that you want? And that GPS will act like the GPS in the car. It will get you there, no matter the problems, the challenges. It doesn't really matter, because if you want to go from Chicago to New York, you don't have to see the end destination. You just need to see just a little bit ahead of you, and then another little bit, and another, and you're going step by step. It's as simple as that. And it doesn't matter how slow you go. I always say to people, progress is progress, no matter how slow.
Oh, you are spitting some gems today, Jake. I love this. And what I really like about how you just explained that is it kind of touches back to your comment earlier about, hey, some people are renovating home or renovating houses and flipping, houses, but I'm creating homes. And I think that fits so closely in with the vision casting of, okay, yeah, you want to make $1 billion, like, great, but for what purpose? Am I
Exactly.
going to make $1 billion so that I can cure cancer with it? Am I going to make that $1 billion so that I can give it all away back to the, like, it's got to be so much bigger than that billion, because even if you just only focus on the billion, once you get there, it's done. And,
That's
like,
it.
what are you going to become on the way to that billion? Well, if that's the only thing you care about, I can't say for sure. I don't know, but I can't say for sure that your morals and ethics and the end thing is really going to get you what you truly want. It's what
Yeah,
are you going to become to make that billion and for
100%.
what purpose, man? And I think it fits so well with what you had mentioned, in that if you're showing up and you're trying to deliver a premium service, focus on exactly what that premium service is. And I tell you what, for someone who's grown up in places that aren't as nice, a home is a premium thing. But you have to
100%.
understand that about your clients. And so, Jake, I love how you kind of tied all that together, because it's so interesting from a perspective of, if I'm trying to attract the right clients so that I can sell them more of my products and services, it's a simple marketing strategy. And marketing to get more leads and to build your brand and your business is one of the most important parts to making
Mm.
more sales. And so for you, how did you, going into these different industries, what are like the simple marketing strategies that you can kind of use in any business?
There you go. Oh, I love that question. That's a really good question. And I'll tell you one thing: communication skills. You
Mm,
see, I run digital agency, right? So we do like SEO, Google ads, any paid ads. And every single time, maybe not every single time, but more often than not, when we take over an account, not a new account, existing account, but from a different agency, more often than not, I see one massive problem. For example, there's a copy. If when you run Google Ads, you must have a copy, right, to your ads.
mm-hmm,
Um, and more often than not, the copy is usually correct, but it's not great because
mm,
it's IT people writing that copy because they're running the whole campaign, so IT people will write it, but the copy must be it is selling. This copy is basically it's your system for selling, so it must be about your customer, about his feelings and emotions, not saying that like, hey, we are the best, buy from us. Screw you, we don't care. It's like because everyone on entire planet, they listening to this amazing radio station called WIIFM. What's in it for me? Everyone. And we have to understand that you have to talk about your customer. You have to talk about the feelings, their emotions. This is how you sell. And that's a simple communication skill. There is a beautiful book uh, um, by Carnegie, How to Influence People, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? And it's like 100-year-old book, but it's still relevant. You're basically asking questions about your the person you're talking to. It's like, hey, how are you? How is your dog? Sometimes when I do sales trainings, I always say like, be prepared. If you want to win, preparation is 80% of winning. If you prepare and you ask great questions like, hey, Joey, like, I was listening to some of your shows and this guy was talking about questions, like asking the right questions. And you are like, hey, it's nice. The guy actually did some research, right? I won straight away, right? Just a little bit of preparation, just a little. And the thing is, the more you prepare, the chances that you win that prospect or you win that sales are going up. As simple as that. But most salespeople, they never prepare. They're just walking in and they're like, hey guys, what are you selling here? But what the hell, right? You should be prepared. You should ask really good question. Hello, Mr. Prospect. I really like your company. You have started that company in 1997 with your business partner called Steve, and this is amazing. And you have 3 children. How do you know that? I read it on your website. It's simple as that, right? Preparing, especially today with ChatGPT and all those AI tools, preparation is so easy, but most people are lazy, unfortunately. And to be a great to be great in anything, it's all about preparation and it's all about practice. I have this little saying that I created. If you want to be good at something, the sequence goes like this: first you learn, then you practice, then you master, and then you become a fucking legend. That's the
Amen.
sequence. It's like learning a recipe. If you want to cook the dish, first you learn the recipe, then you practice the recipe, then you master the recipe, and then you can change it because now you know how to change it. Unfortunately, most people, when they do anything, they want to start changing it straight away, and it doesn't work. And then they're like, oh, I tried everything and it didn't work. It's like, no, you try 1 or 2 or 3 things. That's not everything. Trying 1,000 things, and then you can say like, oh, I almost tried everything. Isn't that true?
Jake, you have been one of my favorite guests as of late. And I've had some amazing guests. So if you're like one of my past guests and you're listening, don't be offended. But this has been an awesome conversation. And, I want to be respectful of your time because I'm sure we could nerd out on this like all day and have a ton of fun. And from the sounds of it, we are birds of a feather from across the pond, because everything you're saying is hitting all of the things that I would love to say right back in and I don't have to, because you've set such a great example. How can we come and follow you, learn more about what you guys have going on, and check out more of your content?
I mean, the easiest thing is to just go on Google and, Google me as Jake Smolarek, and you will find my website, my Instagram, all the channels.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure we put everything down in the show notes. We'll make sure everybody knows how to come and find you. Again, man, I've had an absolute blast today, and really looking forward to getting this one out to more of my audience, because I think they're really going to enjoy it. So before we get out of here, I always like to ask this question, and you've shared a lot already, so it doesn't have to be crazy, but like, the cool thing about sales is anyone from anywhere at any time can get into sales and start making their life successful. If they just so happen to land on this show, by the glory of God, they're like here listening to us right now, and they want to be successful, what one thing would you tell them to do to make that a reality?
Start selling straight away. Find the product, find the service. It doesn't have to be your product, it doesn't have to be your service. If you want to be in sales, just start selling. Selling is basically, again, asking people to buy. And you have to remember that at the very beginning, you're going to suck. If you sell 1 out of 10, that will be actually good enough. Don't be afraid to hear no. No's are usually not personal. The no is not for you. The no is for the product or for the service. And just selling is a numbers game, like almost anything. If you talk to 100 people and you sell 1, there you go. That's your first yes. And then when you talk to another 100 people and you sell 2, you're making progress, because this is how you make progress. The only way to make progress is by doing things. If you want to be in sales, you have to start selling. It's as simple as that. If you want to be a great guitar player, you have to start playing guitar. You cannot read it. Yeah, you can read about it, you can listen to, you can watch videos, but the only way to be good at it is to doing it, right? And doing it often. And I'll give you one more advice, because I would say I really like the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. And I always say, remember, the first 10% and the last 10% is exciting. Starting the project and finishing the project is exciting. But the 80% is all, you have to go to the gym. That's training. That's the hard work. And most people, they don't want to do it. But that's where the secret is. Successful people, they're not successful because they do different things every day. They're successful because they do exactly the same things, boring things, every day for 7 years in a row, and then they become champions. That's the secret.
Jake, it's been an absolute blast, man. I am so grateful that you took some time out of your day to be here. If you're listening to this and you enjoyed the show, send it to someone you know, a friend, colleague, coworker, someone that maybe needs to hear the things that is in this episode. Maybe they suck at sales. It's okay. Send them this show. Jake just dropped some absolute gems. And, if you have a story, if you've been in the game and you've had some experiences, I'd like for you to be on the show as well. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your information. Let us know you'd like to be a part. We'd love to have you on, because this is the greatest show on earth. It's the most fun that I get to have in my entire week. And it is the one place that I know anyone in sales can go to learn how to get better, because of people like Jake Smolarek sharing their wisdom. So, Jake, thank you again, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You guys know what to do. Go call the damn leads. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.